Okay, so we're going to begin. We're in the midst of the series of Kohelet, a book that was written by Salomon HaMelech. One of his books, he wrote Mishlei as well, Shir HaShirim. Kohelet is about the wisdom of life, the many experiences that he shares with us. Mishlei, by the way, is also a very fascinating book. There's an opinion that says that Mishlei was written in the beginning of his life when he was young, and Kohelet was written at the end of his life. When he went through so much, he became more knowledgeable and he realized many things that he's sharing with us. So this is about wisdom. Wisdom that can be very, very helpful to us. Last week, I spoke a little bit about Mazal. Mazal is one's fate and one's destiny. This is a topic that he touches upon very much in this book. This is a topic that is not very well understood, neither by Jews or non-Jews. What does Mazal mean? We say Mazal Tov, and sometimes it's Mazal Ra. If it's not a good Mazal, it's a bad bacht. For those of you who understand. But it could be, one way or another. We don't understand what it's all about. Destiny, fate, as it is called. Qismat, another word for it. Goral in Hebrew. And I explained just briefly that it is a form of kivun. It's a GPS that is embedded in the human being from the time of birth, that takes him throughout life, and the various ups and downs, many of them, are really not his fault at all. Life and what it entails is really not up to the individual to decide the outcome of it. A great many details are not up to us. The timing of events are not up to us when things happen. The outcome, the results, lawsuits, just in general, the big picture of life is not something that we control. And it's a very big topic, Mazal, and we've already covered a bit of it, so I don't want to review or repeat everything, but the main points were that there's a reason for why every individual is born at a certain time, why every individual has a certain type of life, and you cannot be someone else. You can only be who you are meant to be. But the human being, when he is born, is really raw. He's not yet at his full potential. Animals within a couple hours or weeks at the most are pretty much ready to do what they're supposed to do: hunt and survive, and eventually procreate. The human being is a child, is an infant, is a baby. He's in need, he's dependent on others. He's not complete until he grows up. And we're always growing up, we're always learning. Life is a school. And we make mistakes. We don't know everything, we don't have the answers to all the questions. But it's not a matter of getting everything done right, perfect. There's no such a thing as perfection. Hashem is perfect. His world is perfect. We're not perfect. The human being is not perfect, and he can never really be 100% perfect. He's here to perfect himself, to refine himself, of course. He's here to accomplish certain things. We all have a mission. But it's not about perfection. It's about doing your best. It's about being good. That's a very brief description of man's mission, or the common mission of all humanity, is to be good people, is to do God's will. But how much we succeed in all the details, that's not really up to us, because we're limited by the mazal. A mazal is a system that Hashem created in the world that limits us within a certain framework. And you can't basically do what you want in this framework. But there is a little bit of freedom, which we'll speak about a little bit more later on today. Where is that area of freedom that we do have? But it's important to keep in mind there's not that much of it. So mazal is something that comes down from above, and that is why it's called mazal, nozel. It comes down, it drips. It is a shefa. It is a form of abundance, of flow that permeates everything in the world, from the smallest insect to everything in creation, to the biggest galaxy. Everything is somehow controlled. All the movements are precise. the galaxies, the stars, the planets. Just the system is perfect. It's an incredible computer that never fails. No power outage, right? The sun is there every morning giving us power and heat. There's no power outage. Man is the one that is a little bit more complex. But this man lives within this mazal. So many things that happen to us are as a result of this big mazal. In Perek Gimel, chapter 3, where we're holding, Shlomo Melech goes through the various kinds of times, like kol zman ve'et. Even though he doesn't explain the why there is a time for everything, he's just letting us know there is a time for everything. So what I'm going to do first is go through the various pesukim, translate them, give you an idea of what he's talking about. As we said, everything in this world has a time. And when he says a time, he means a reason, a purpose. And many of these times repeat themselves. They come back like seasons. So mazalot as well. You can have a particular mazal. Let's say it's a mazal of incredible wealth. He will be a billionaire. That particular mazal is not only that individual. It belongs to others as well. It could have belonged to somebody even 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. A mazal of immense wealth. I'm not talking about $1 million. I'm talking about $1 billion. Great wealth. Repeats itself. Comes back as a wheel. Certain people will have it. Certain people will have the mazal called poverty. Right? It comes back. Comes back. And not only one, two. Many people will have that kind of a mazal, that kind of a lifestyle. There's a mazal of no children. Chas v'shalom. No children. He comes into this world, live his life, happy, good wife, good job, healthy too, but no kids. There will be a mazal of good wife, good money, nice home, no health, or health not too good. There will be a mazal of health, family, kids, trouble from the neighbors, lawsuits, business troubles, tension, stress. Then you have the mazal of a person who has a good job, but he has to travel 50 miles to work. Then you have a mazal of somebody who has a so-so job, but it's right across the street. Which one is better? It all depends for who. Some people are okay to drive. Some people would rather go across the street. Imagine if you just have to walk or take the bike to work and make a decent living. But it's not up to us. This is all part of the mazal. The mazal brings all this together. There are people who went to college for 6 to 8 years to become lawyers. But what was their mazal? It wasn't meant to be for them to be a lawyer. Instead, when they got married, the father-in-law says, listen, I have a big company and I want my future son-in-law to take over. All those years in law school, wasted. No, not completely wasted. Maybe he gained something from it. Now he knows how to write. They taught him how to write or how to speak. Maybe he knows
how to lie.
Or how to lie. Yeah, I didn't think about that. You're right. Yeah, but that was his mazal. Right. So he went to school because he didn't know who he was going to marry. But you see how the mazal works in so many different kind of ways. Where we end up, where we're going to live. All right, so he begins the chapter as follows. There's a time for everything, a need for everything. Et laledet ve'et lamut. A time to give birth and a time to die. What does that mean? Simply, literally, it means that Hashem determined that the average time of pregnancy is 9 months. Why 9 and not 6 or 7? Some animals give birth pretty quickly. A cow actually is very close to the human being in the amount of time it takes for the calf to be born. But other animals, it's very short. Within a couple months, 2 months, 3 months, depending on the animal or the bird, you have a new bird. You have a new animal. Another cat, another dog. Right? Very quickly.
Multiple.
But with human beings, it's 9 months. So there's a reason for that. He doesn't tell us what to read, but there's a reason for that of how long pregnancy should be. There are those, of course, who give birth earlier or later, but this is the average. Et lamut. There's a time to die. 70 years, 75, 80. And there were periods in the history because of all kinds of plagues and disease. 45, 50 was already old. Et lamut, there's a time to die, or when Hashem has determined, and for every individual it's different, and it's not only about genes. Et la ta'at ve'et la akor natua, there's a time to plant, and there's a time to uproot. Now, even though to plant and uproot talks about plants and trees, it's also talking about nations and people. A time that they're established, a time when America was established in 1776, and there's a time la'akor, a time when an empire will no longer exist. It will cease to exist. It will fall. Everything that goes up must come down. All the nations have come up in the past, have come down. This is not an exception. Yeah, and I think we're very much holding at the very end already. So there's a time and there's a reason for how long things last. Et la'arog ve'et lirpo. There's a time for people to get killed. There's a reason for it. What could be a reason? The death penalty. Somebody deserves it. That would be one example. It's a et la'arog. What can we do? The Torah says you can't do it. You should not kill. You're not allowed to kill. But there are times that we are commanded to, if the person deserves it, or for self-defense. Et lirpo, there's a time to heal, to heal the wounds. Things that went wrong, people got into fights. You have to make an effort, and there's a time, a correct time to heal a nation of its wounds, of its problems. Et lifrotz ve'et lifnot, a time to demolish and a time to build. Right? To build something new, to take down what was old. Et lifkot ve'et lischok, there's a time to cry and a time to be happy. Et sefot ve'et rekod, a time to eulogize, a time to dance. And you can't do the wrong thing at the wrong time. Rabbis tell us when people are happy, be happy with them. You can't sit and mourn. People are mourning and you're participating, you can't make jokes. Right? It's a time to mourn. And there's a reason why things happen at that particular time. It says about Avraham Avinu, he was supposed to live to 180. And he died at 175. Hashem took him 5 years before his time. Why? So he should not see his grandson Esav, Yotzeh leTarbut Ra'ah, becoming an individual who's a persona non grata, as we call him, in diplomatic channels. A person who doesn't behave right, who does terrible things, who only brings sorrow to his parents and grandparents. So there's a time. Hashem took him for that reason at a particular time. Et lashlich avanim ve'et kenos avanim. There's a time to scatter stones and to gather them. This is insinuating the galuyot, the pizur, the scattering of the Jewish people all over the world. In the ingathering, the scattering had to do with the time that the stones came down, the collapse of the Bet HaMikdash, and therefore the people went into exile. But there will be a time when they will come back, and they are coming back today. Et lachavok ve'et lirchok v'chabek, there's a time to embrace and a time to maintain distance. This is especially true with one's spouse during the time that she's not clean. A husband has to maintain the distance. So there's a time to embrace, a time not to embrace. Et levakesh ve'et le'abed, there's a time to search, a time to go out and bring people back b'tshuva. That could be one form of levakesh, or a time to levakesh could also be a time to ask questions, a time to become informed, to want to know. That's all called levakesh. Ve'et le'abed, at a time that people are lost. This one is a little difficult because it's talking about it also includes when children are lost or kidnapped. There's a reason for it. It doesn't just happen. Le'abed, alach li'ibud. Somebody got lost, somebody intermarried. Now, even though that was his own free will, but somehow these things happen. So et le'abed, there's also time to throw out, to dispose, which means that things that have no use, are to be thrown away. So it could refer to all kinds of situations where there's a time for this and a time for the opposite, a time to dispose of. It could even be talking about a bad student who's spoiling the rest of the class. What do you do? It's a big dilemma, it's a big question. It's not an easy decision. If you throw him out of school, he's going to go to public school, who knows what's going to happen with him? Give him a chance. Yeah, but if he's if he's spoiling everybody else, if he's a nuisance, he's hurting them, that's a time to remove him. Et lishmor ve'et lashlich, there's a time to keep something and a time to dispose of it. Similar. This could be a marriage, a relationship. So sometimes if it doesn't work out, it all depends what the circumstances are. So this could be referring to that. This could also be referring to wealth. A person has accumulated wealth, and all of a sudden somebody took it away from him. So it's et lishmor, to preserve, and a time comes sometimes that it's taken away, to throw it away. Devaluation of the currency is another example. You've saved yourself all this money, and all of a sudden some governments devalue the currency. So now you're poorer than you were before. You didn't do anything. So et lishmor ve'et le'ashlich. There's a time, there's a reason for everything. Et likroa ve'et litfor, the time to sow. A time to tear and a time to sow. Likroa could also mean evil, somebody who kriya, mourning. Things are torn, and a time to sow. This could also be referring to relationships too. Separation, and a time to bring them together. Et lachashot ve'et ledaber, there's a time to keep quiet and a time to talk. Et lehov ve'et lisno, a time to love and a time to hate, those that need to be hated, in other words, those that we have to keep distance from. Et milchama ve'et shalom, there's a time of war and there's a time of peace. Sometimes we need to go to war. Without getting too much into these times, the basic idea, the common denominator behind these times is that everything is from above. And there's a reason for all of them, and there's a time for all of them. And therefore, since everything is behashgacha, everything is through divine providence, there's a reason in the cheshbon for everything. All that is really left for us to do is liftoach b'Hashem, is to have trust in Hashem that everything is for some good reason. If you look around the world and you see and you observe, you hear about all the meuraot, all the kinds of incidents that occur, all that he's just said, all kinds of incidents, war and problems, we need to realize that many of these events, or the majority of events in life, are directly tied to mazal. That's the general explanation of why certain things happen at certain times. Right? The possibility is human intervention. In other words, ma'aseh ha'adam. In other words, the individuals actually made a decision that he wants to do something in an area where he actually has free will. That which is due to mazal, we have no ability to change. That's just the way it is. That which we have the ability to choose, of course, then we have to be careful to make the right choices. But let's take care of number one first. Number one is mazal. Whatever comes as a result of mazal, we don't have the ability almost to change. I say almost because we did say last week that the Jewish nation does have that ability through teshuvah, tefillah, tzedakah. And even sometimes the non-Jewish nations, like in the story of Nineveh, they were given a chance to repent, otherwise they were going to be destroyed. Remember the story with Yonah being sent on a mission. But usually things are meant to be for whatever reason, but that we don't always know, including earthquakes, tsunamis, which actually we'll talk a little bit about next week, why these things happen. But it's all mishamayim. If that's the case, people need to realize that when something is wrong in their life, and this happens to me a lot, when especially people who who grew up in certain cultures come to me and complain, Rabbi, I think somebody gave me the evil eye. Ain hara. And that is why my parnasah, my livelihood is not doing well. The business is not doing well. Things are wrong. Somebody must have looked at me the wrong way. And I hear it especially from certain people. That's the first thing they blame. It's ain hara. And I tell them, who told you that this is ain hara? Why are you blaming ain hara? No, there's always people looking at me. Maybe it's your bad mazal. Maybe it's just mazal. And there's one kind of a mazal that is like this. Good year, bad year, good, bad. Not everybody has a straight mazal. From the age of 25 to the age of 75, 50 years of more or less good work, good business. He's not fired. He doesn't change jobs. He has good customers that pay on time. Yeah, that's good mazal. You know, some people have it like that from 25 to 75 until they retire. Sometimes a little bit better, sometimes worse. But I'm sure every one of you knows somebody like that. Who ever since he started his business career until his later years, he had a decent life. Don't you know people like that? Decent, normal, no ups and downs. No, no, nothing happened. Now, take a look at your line of business, jewelry. How many people do you know of that got robbed? Quite a few. Then there are some people who claim they were robbed. I'm not talking about those. Yeah, then there were some that were killed. It's a dangerous business, jewelry. But there are some, Baruch Hashem, nothing ever happened to them. There are some that didn't get hurt, but some customers didn't pay. Now, depending which customer it was, if it was a customer that owes them $500,000, that's a big dent in their income, unless they have insurance. Then you have the guy who had insurance but forgot to renew his policy, and right after that they robbed him. Also min hashamayim. You see, all kinds of mazal. Some have it smooth, some have up and down, it's very bumpy, some have it bad all the time. No matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, shum davar lo ozer, nothing helps them. It always stays bad. So the first thing they do, they come to me and say, somebody gave me an ain hara. Why? Because last year it was good, now it's not going well. First of all, maybe it's the mazal. That's number one. What's number two possibility, if it's not the mazal? Maybe it's your ma'asim. We said the second possibility is the ma'asim, the deeds of a person. Maybe your deeds are no good. My deeds? Yeah. Maybe you overcharged someone. Maybe you stole money from someone. When you steal, you think you're going to stay with the money? Sometime down the line, it could be 10 years from now. Not right away. 10 years. Hashem will take back what you stole 10 years ago. Where is this coming from? You don't know, because it's been 10 years. But money that's stolen has no blessing. Just like money that's made on Shabbat has no blessing. Sometime down the road, all of a sudden, your wife will have 3 root canals. They're expensive. Especially if you have no insurance. 3 root canals. Yeah. Okay? What else? Your transmission will go in the car. And then, all of a sudden, when you thought you finished, you have to change the whole piping underneath your house because they burst. And they flooded your living room. All kinds of things can go wrong. Ooh, terrible. I mean, it's just incredible how many the possibilities are for things to go wrong. And what do they have in common? It could be to balance out the sheet, right? The balance sheet of money that was earned in an illegal way, money that was taken that was not yours. So money that is lost, other than the mazal, second possibility is ma'asim. You were not honest. You did something completely wrong. What's another possibility? You're honest. You took somebody to court. And you won. You won. In other words, what happened? The judge actually made the other guy pay you. The judge made the other guy pay you, but in reality, the judge made a mistake. Yeah. The judge, a Jewish judge, a rabbi, can make mistakes. He made a mistake. And Hashem says, I don't allow for corruption or for lack of justice in this world. Hashem has to fix it up. Hashem has to clean up the mess. What does he do? A year or two down the road, he makes you pay the money that you took that was not rightfully yours. You lose it. That's the meaning of the pasuk in the Torah. Mishpat lelokim hu. Mishpat, justice, belongs to Hashem. You'll complain to the judge. You're wrong. You made a mistake. It's not right. Don't worry about it. If the judge made a mistake, which is possible, Hashem will fix it. Whatever money that is due to you that was taken away from you, that was not supposed to be taken away from you, you'll get it back. You for sure will get it back. Nobody can take 1 penny from you if it's due to you. If it's coming to you, nobody can take it away. If they did, because people can do all kinds of things, it will come back. An aunt of yours that you didn't have any contact with her for the last 20 years, all of a sudden will remember you. I'm leaving my inheritance to this nephew. Why this nephew? Because Hashem put it into her mind. All the money that you lost, you're going to get now back. Now the problem is people don't understand this. That's why they behave in the following way. I gave you the example of a guy who was walking down the street and he lost $100. It fell off his pocket. He came home, he realized that, and he felt terrible. He felt terrible. He lost $100. So he went back to search for it. And what do you think happens? He found $1,000. Because he went back to search, he found some bills. Not drug money. Good money, somebody without any identification. Finders keepers, like they say in English. You're alive. There's no identification. There's no wallet. There's none. Somehow money scattered. He says, "Oh, I feel terrible. Had I not lost the $100, now I would be richer. I would have $1,100." That's silly. Because you lost the 100, you made 1,000. Do you realize? Had you not lost the $100, you would have never bothered going back. But people don't think like that. Oh, I would have had more. Right? They're, what do you call it? Tama. They're greedy. Yeah? Greedy people. No? Anyway, it's all mishamayim. It's all from heaven. So these are examples of where Hashem makes adjustments to the finances. It could be all kinds of reasons. You took that which is not yours, somehow you lose it. Somebody took yours, somehow you get it back. That is why there's a very beautiful Ma'amar Chazal. The rabbis tell us as follows. Did you ever see a Aryeh Sabal? How do you say Sabal in English? One who carries cargo, heavy cargo on him. There's a word for it.
Porter?
Like a porter. Did you ever see a lion whose profession is to be a porter, who carries? Or did you ever see a shu'al henvani? Did you ever see a fox whose profession is to be a grocer or a CPA? In other words, these animals don't have these kinds of professions, and they have what to eat, and they have a parnasah. The Midrash goes on to say, and they were created to serve us, mankind. These animals are for us to use. I, who was created to serve Hashem, shouldn't it be that my parnasah should come to me as easily as it comes to them? But it doesn't. And the Torah says you have to sweat and work and toil. Why do I have it harder than the animals? They don't go to college, right? They don't have to suffer so much. The rabbis continue to explain, it must be because I did something wrong, I misbehaved, and because of that, I deprived myself of my parnasah, my livelihood. In other words, I brought it about myself. I'm guilty. I'm at fault somehow if something is wrong. Now, don't misunderstand me. It doesn't always mean that somebody did something wrong and that is why he's suffering right now. We did say it last week that it could be related to a previous lifetime called Gilgul, a previous reincarnation. It could be that a person's general mazal is like that. That's part of his tikkun. That is the way it needs to be. It's not necessarily, and usually it's not, that he just did something wrong. People who suffer, all kinds of suffering, is not necessarily as a result of a terrible thing they did. It could be all kinds of things, But the second possibility is that if a person really is going through a hard time, he should examine himself. Examine his deeds, that perhaps, especially if it's financial, maybe he did something wrong. Otherwise, why is this strange thing happening to him? Now, if it's not strange, like today's economy, a lot of people are affected. Don't go blaming Ain Hara, and it's not necessarily mazal, right? It's the economy. In today's economy, a lot of people are having a hard time. A lot of people, almost everybody. And what's interesting is that even in the bad economy, there are some people who do not even feel it. You know what? Did you ever see that? Did you notice that? You will find people in today's bad economy, life goes on. Nothing, they don't even feel the pinch. They've had to maybe make some changes, right? Maybe downsize a little bit, but they still have orders, they don't have problems, they don't have bad checks. Everything is going okay. Mazal. They have such a good mazal that it's immune from the economy. Wouldn't you like to have that mazal? The problem is you can't order it. You either get it or you don't. But it exists. So because at times it has something to do with our Ma'asim Mardis, rabbis tell us, examine them. And whatever needs to be fixed, fix it. Fix it. Yeah. Rabbis go on to tell us that if that's the case, that the mazal is so strong and that everything is predestined, preordained from above, then perhaps we shouldn't do anything. Because how much should we make hishtadlut? How much should we go out of our way and make efforts if things have been decreed anyway? I can't do it. I can't change it. So maybe I should just sit and do nothing. If it's meant to be, the parnasah will come knocking on my door. No. Parnasah does not always come knocking on your door. It says, "Leman yivarechecha Hashem bechol asher ta'aseh," in order that God will bless you in all that you will do. So we see that you have to do. You do, and Hashem will bless you. Right? Astocharikat, aschotav barakat. Right? You do. But the barakah is from Hashem. How much you will have, that Hashem will decide. But you have to do something. Right? You can't just sit at home, no, I don't do anything. Some people don't want to date. They don't want to date. They're thinking and hoping and praying that the girl will come knocking on your door. You can pray for that. Maybe you'll be lucky. She will come knocking on your door. She'll be looking for a friend, and by mistake, she'll knock on your door, right? It won't be a mistake. It'll be mishamayim. This is actually not wishful thinking. You can do that, but you have to have enough merits. Rabbis tell us when it comes to soulmates and comes to getting married, there are those that go and find their wife, and there are those that their wife comes to them. Who's an example of one who went looking for a wife? Yaakov. Who's an example that the wife came looking for him? Yitzhak. Right? Rivka came to him. He didn't have to move. He didn't have to go anywhere. The majority of the times, however, the man has to make the initiative. He has to go out and search. And look, the man, not the woman, she doesn't have to go around. Right? So therefore, if it happens that the man came to you, or the woman came to you, and it was with ease knocking on the door, you're lucky, mazal, good fortune, baracha mishamayim, that you didn't have to work hard. Same thing with parnasah. Jewelry is another example. Jewelry, as you know, is a tough business, but it's a very easy business too. It's tough because if you have a 10-carat diamond, who's going to buy it? You don't have that many customers, right? For a large stone, you have less customers. But all you need is one customer, right? All you need is one. If you're selling a lot of shoes, you need a lot of customers. But if you have a big stone, all you need is one. Now, how long will it take you? You know more about emeralds, okay? You have a 12-carat emerald that is green from Colombia, right? Nice color and no blemishes.
Flawless.
How much is it worth? 12 carats, clean, green from Colombia.
$25,000 a carat.
A carat. Okay, so 12 carat is how much? 300,000? Yeah? Right? How long will it take to sell something like that?
Maybe 10 years.
Or 5 minutes. 10 years or 5 minutes. If you have the right customer. The right customer comes. You happen to have a 10 carat, 12 carat. Yes, I happen to have it. Who do you think made the phone call? Who put it into his head? It's all mazal. Mazal, or it was decreed for some reason too. Sometimes Hashem gets involved for some reason. Remember, he has to make adjustments. This individual gave so much tzedakah this year that Hashem says, I'm going to send you a gift. That happens too. But usually it's all mazal. Mazal. You hire someone, and that someone is dishonest. He steals your money on the counter. And he's a relative of yours. That's what makes it more difficult. And then there's another guy who hires someone, and he's so honest, he works late, he's so trustworthy. How come this one has a good worker, this one has a bad worker? Whoever he hires, no. You know, some people have a terrible mazal with maids. Every Monday and Thursday, they're firing the maid and hiring another maid. Maids. They just don't have good mazal. Either they're fighting with them, arguing with them. Now, they could have a problem themselves, too. The one who's hiring the maid could be, they don't know how to behave right. Right? So it's their fault. But it could be just bad mazal. You know, it's just not good luck. And the other ones with mazal, the maid will be with them for 40 years. She will see the children born and married and grandchildren. How come? So nice and devoted like a member of the family. It's all mazal. Everything like that is mazal. So when things go wrong, it could be the mazal. But remember, it could also possibly be a person's maasim. So we always have to check our maasim. And if things are not right, we have to check. We have lut. Ishtadut means effort. Effort depends on the mazal. There are some people who will work a couple of hours every day in jewelry. And in a couple of hours, they've done the business for the month. For the month. Not for the day or for the week. There are some people who have to work every day just to pay the bills for that day or for that week. Otherwise, they don't have to buy groceries. They don't, the water bill, the gas bill, the telephone, the cell phone. Right? What about that? And there are some people who will make enough money for the whole month. They don't have to work if they don't want to. Right? You know people like that? Yeah. It depends on the mazal. Then you have people who don't have good mazal for 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, Hashem sends them one client who takes care of the whole year. Wow, it's strange. What's this? It's all mazal. It's all cheshbon. There's a reason for everything. So the amount of ishtadut, we don't know. Amount of effort a person will make, we don't know how much it will be. But you have to make an effort. You can't wait for things to come your way. What about over effort? Have you heard of the term workaholic? There are some people who work 14 hours a day. That's called ishtadlut yeter. Excessive effort. That's wrong. No good. Be normal. We have 24 hours a day. People ask me, how much should I work? How much effort should I put in? I say, be normal. 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for the rest of your needs. To learn Torah, to pray, whatever, to eat, right? The most, if your job is 8.5, 9 hours, sometimes a little more work overtime, okay. But be normal. The rest spend with your family. Learn Torah, go to a class. A person who works 14 hours thinking that if he works 2-3 jobs, and because of that he has to sacrifice the time of learning and the time of his family, he's making a big mistake. Hashem can send him the exact same money in less hours, in normal amount of hours. The exact same thing. Hashem, could you send me the exact same thing in 7-8 hours? And Hashem says, of course I can. But tell me, what are you going to do with the rest of the hours? You're going to go play poker? Yeah? You're going to go to Vegas? What are you going to do with the rest of the time that I give you? I can make it happen to you. There's a guy in Israel, in Me'as Sharim, I was told, that sells glasses, eyeglasses. And he has a big sign on the store that says, I'm only open from 5 p.m. to 8. 3 hours. And he learns. The rest of the time he learns. To his family. What do you think happens? Everybody comes to him between 5 and 8. All the customers, they know. You know, People have told me here, people who have opened up new businesses, that they have to be open on Shabbat. This is a business that otherwise I will lose my customers if they don't see that I'm open on Shabbat. Shabbat is the best day, supposedly. Don't put a sign, I'm open on Sunday. If you really believe and trust in Hashem, you have real bitachon, faith, and trust, and you rely on Hashem, and you realize that everything is from Him, how could it be that you will lose business because you're closed on a Saturday? It's impossible. If this guy doesn't come on Saturday, and he only comes on Saturday, then somebody else will come on Sunday. There's no such a thing. And I hear this all the time with all kinds of businesses. People are simply tempted, or they're not strong enough in their emunah, and they think, I better be open, otherwise I'm going to lose it. Then you have this guy, Rabbi, I'm going to prove it to you. Saturday's my best day. He had a car wash. I'm going to show you $3,000 in cash. I'm going to show you this bundle of money. You see? Shabbat. All on Shabbat. Better than any other day. He doesn't realize what's going to happen 2 months down the road to that $3,000. It's going to be taken away from him. The IRS is going to audit him. He would not have been audited had he not worked on Shabbat, maybe. He's going to have a problem, repairs to do, things that were unanticipated, only because of that money. The money that is earned on Shabbat has no barakah. But a person thinks, it's the best day. That's when everybody comes. Open on Sunday. You don't really have to open on Sunday, and you don't have to open on Saturday. I told you many times, Mr. Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, did us a big favor. He gave us a long weekend here in this country, work 5 days, and rest. Shabbat, picnic on Sunday, barbecue on Monday if you want. Who needs to work? Take it easy. Just work what you have to. Yeah, really. As long as you're doing the right things with your spare time, If you're learning, Hashem says, I want my free time. I want to learn Torah. I want to pray. I don't want to work so hard. So okay, no problem. Prove it, right? So people who think that they can outsmart the system by working on Shabbat, they're not making more. Famous example of the Chafetz Chaim was with a barrel. You have a barrel, and in this barrel you have, let's say, 50 gallons of good wine. How do you get the wine from the barrel? Through a faucet, right? Comes along a smart aleck. He says, I'm going to open up a second faucet from the other side so I can get more wine. Sir, there's only 50 gallons there. If you open a second faucet, you're going to get it faster, but you're still going to get the same amount. You're not going to get more. You open on Shabbat, you're opening a second faucet, you're going to get the exact same amount that they've decided on Rosh Hashanah you should have. Not 1 ounce more. And you also run the risk of losing it because you worked on Shabbat. So does it pay? It only happens to people who don't understand the way the system works. That's the way the system works. No beracha for working on Shabbat. And no beracha for money that is earned illegally either. At some point, it's going to be lost. And the guy may be caught as well. So it's not worth it. Crime does not pay, they say in this country. In other countries, maybe it does pay, but here it doesn't. I don't know. Anyway, it never pays. It's wrong. So too much ishtadlut, too much effort is also not good. What are you doing? You're destroying your life for what? For money? You can make the same amount of money if you work normal hours. Okay, next pasuk. Now that we understand more or less how the system works, and we see how we're in many ways limited with the mazal. So he goes on and says like this, if that's the case, that there is a time for everything, and I don't control it, Ma yitron ha'oseh b'asher hu amel. What does one gain by what he does, by the hard work that he puts in? What will he gain? What will come out of all the many hours that he puts in if his mazal is not a good mazal? What will he gain from it? It's a good question. In other words, what will all the extra hours and all the extra effort help someone whose mazal does not allow it? Nothing will help. People don't know it. And because they don't know their mazal, they try. The only question is how much to try. So the rabbis give us the following advice. Don't be dochek et hasha'ah. Dochek et hasha'ah is an expression that the rabbis tell us is if you see that the hour is not good for you, the timing is not good, don't push too hard. You're going to suffer needlessly. What's a quick example? You go for an interview, you prepare yourself, you wrote a beautiful resume, and you think you're qualified for a job. You don't get it. He doesn't give it to you. He doesn't hire you. Now, what would the average Jew, we're talking about now Jewish people, because non-Jews react differently. So what should the average Jew do in this case? He did not get the job. He was not hired. What should he do?
Say Baruch Hashem and go home.
Say Baruch Hashem? Gamzura Tova. That is not the average Jew. That is the one who has a little bit of bitachon, who understands things a little bit. The average Jew will say, well, maybe I have to try contacting his boss. Maybe, we're talking about a good job here, right? And especially somebody who's out of work for a long time. He would maybe try to make one more effort. Find out why he didn't hire him. Why? It could be for a simple reason. Listen, I have many, many people who are applying for the job, and you're a little bit older than they are, and I want somebody younger. It could be for a simple reason. Now, we know that that's not the real reason. We know that it's Min HaShamayim. He doesn't know that. So if he goes and gets an explanation, which he's entitled to, it's nothing wrong. He didn't overstep himself. He's going to get some explanation. Then you have a guy who is not happy about the explanation. He must be anti-Semitic. Yeah, I'm going to sue him. Especially if he's Israeli. I'm going to show him. Who does he think he is? Right? He's going to take it to court. This is an example, a small example of lidchok et hasha'ah. Don't push it. Don't push the envelope, I think they say in English. Don't push it too hard. If it's not meant for you, forget it. Just go. Same thing with shidduchim. It could be somebody wants a particular girl or a particular boy. Hashem, please put it into her mind that she should marry me. If she's not for you, just leave it. Forget it. If she says no, forget it. Don't push too hard. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. If it's not meant to be, anything will ruin it. I'll tell you the famous story of a guy who was having a hard time. He came crying and complaining to the Chazon Ish, Zechet Tzaddik Levracha, Rabbi, my neighbor ruins all my shidduchim. Every time they call him up, every time he finds out about somebody I'm dating, he ruins it. He tells them all kinds of nasty things, lies. He's ruining my chances. So the rabbi tells him, don't worry, all the ones he ruined for you were not meant for you. When the time comes and the soulmate arrives, he won't be in town. This neighbor will just not be around to ruin it for you. If it has to happen, it's going to happen. Nobody's going to stop it. All it requires is a little bit of emunah and bitachon. But a person who doesn't have it, he pushes. Hashem, convince her. I want her. How do you know? Maybe she's a witch. How do you know? You're so convinced that she's good for you? Hashem is stopping you. It must be that this is not for you. You have no idea. What if she's a beautiful girl? She's a model. Size 2.5. Is that a good size? I just made up a number. 2.5. Who says she can have children? What are you going to do then? What are you going to do then? Oh, you're happy. You make a fancy wedding. You get an Armenian singer, right? Spend so much money, right? And then you try. No children. 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. What do you say now? Huh? Yeah. You have to pray to Hashem and accept everything as it comes and not tell Hashem what's good for you. I want this. Convince her this is perfect. Or if you marry for money, it's even worse. There's a saying in Arabic, you marry a woman, she's not nice looking, and you married her for the money will disappear and the monkey will stay. Yeah, because money comes and goes. You married her for the money. Who's going to say the money's going to stay there? you know how many father-in-laws promised? They promised and they meant it that they were going to support their son-in-laws, and their factory went up in flames in Eastern Europe. It used to happen. Fires went up in flames, or his boat in the ocean sank, and all the merchandise was not covered by insurance. The father-in-law who promised, son-in-law, I will support you. You can learn for the following 10 years with peace of mind. He had no choice but to go beg or to go work. His plans were frustrated. All mishamayim. Lo lidchok et hasha'ah. Don't push too hard. If you see something is not working out for you, just give it up and move. Try something else. Maybe this is not meant for you. Why are you pushing so hard? Don't push too hard. You try to convince somebody to do something for you. Just doesn't work out. No matter what you do, just forget it. Move on. Move on with life is too short to be worried about these things. Lo lidchok et hasha'ah. Rabbis tell us something very similar to this, but it's a little bit of a different idea. In the Aramaic, it says, Ta'ala be'edna sighidle. A fox, when he's the king, bow down to him. When a fox is king, you bow down to him. When somebody is president of the country, or king, even though he's nothing, he's not qualified, he's not intelligent, but he's the king, he's in power, give him respect. That's his time. He's now on top. Don't push it. Don't try to say, mapitom, I'm going to give him kavod, respect. I don't owe it to him. Some people think like that and act like that. Give him kavod. This Hashem put him in that position. He deserves it. Hashem gave him money. He's a nothing. I remember he was a beggar. He was this. But Hashem made him now a wealthy man. He deserves kavod. Even though it's for his money. But so what? Hashem gave him the money. Then he deserves kavod. Some people have a problem with this, that they go to rabbis, and sometimes big rabbis in Israel have a long line. And all of a sudden you're waiting there for a couple of hours, and you see some people going from the back door. The rabbi is letting in some people to cut the line. And it upsets everybody. But if you ask the rabbi, and these are great rabbis, the rabbi will tell you, listen, that man supports my institutions. He deserves a little bit. What can I do? It's not that he's being unfair completely. It's the correct thing to do. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's the normal thing to do. You want to show your appreciation, and otherwise, human beings are human beings. If the guy doesn't get some kavod, maybe he won't support you. It's not flattery. Flattery is asur, the chaplusi, right? You don't want to flatter someone. It's, you're so good, right? That's not right. But to give him the proper kavod that's coming to him, that's fine. Hashem gave him kavod. Hashem gave him the money. I have to give him kavod too. But the other way around that we said, too much ishtadlut, or lidchok et hasha'ah, don't overdo it when something is showing that there's too many hardships. Maybe this job is not meant for you. Maybe this woman or this man is not meant for you. It's not working out, forget it. Rabbis even tell us, if you're in a city and after 3 years, a number of years, things haven't worked out for you, don't be a fool and move. Maybe your mazal is not here, your mazal is somewhere else. At least at this time. It could be something else. But you have to try something else. Don't insist too much when you see too many obstacles. Somebody pushes too hard, he's just suffering needlessly. Why put yourself through this when it's not meant for you? Another example where this happens, people make this stupid mistake of fighting about money, kids, inheritance. And who gets all the money? The lawyers. The lawyers love it. And the kids get pennies later. Why fight? Just make a reasonable agreement, right? And that's it. Whatever is meant to be. But if you're going to fight, everything will disappear. And history repeats itself, and people always make the same mistake, they fight about money. What can we do? Pain and suffering is another example, by the way. If it's meant for someone to go through pain, like kol zman ve'et, pain has a time when it arrives. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, on the 5th day of the month, this person will have toothache. Yeah, min hashamayim. That's what they decide. And it's not because he didn't floss or didn't brush his teeth. It's min hashamayim. Toothache, toothache is very, very painful. Toothache and stomach aches. And min hashamayim, he's going to have it for 20 days. Hashem yishmor. Now, of course, they're going to give him codeine, and they're going to give him all kinds of things to numb the pain, but it may not help for too long. How long does it last? Then you have to take again medication. This is all min hashamayim. When the pain comes, when the pain leaves, it's min hashamayim. Now, what happens if somebody's a smart aleck and says, you know what? He married a woman, and she's very hard on him. She cooks okay. She's a fine cook. She's okay as a mother too. But she's really tough on him. She gives him a hard time. Or she's a nag. You know what a nag is? It's a hardship for some people. They can't deal with it. And he decides he's going to divorce her. Okay? He's had enough with her. Too much suffering from her. And he's really going through a hard time. I'm not saying he's exaggerating. What he doesn't understand is that once he gets rid of this pain, he's going to get another pain. If this pain that he has was meant for him as a tikkun, which is an atonement, a repair, something mishamayim, it's not just personality clashes, then if it was meant, and he's getting rid of it, he's going to get something else. It's like the rabbis who give us an example with a pregnant woman who's trying to run away from her pregnancy. Wherever she goes, the baby will go with her. How could a woman run away from her pregnancy? Wherever she goes, that pregnancy, that baby, right, will go with her. If a person has to have pain, if he needs to have it, it will go with him wherever he goes. He gets rid of this one, he'll get another one. Some people think the second marriage is better than the first. Sometimes it's worse. Sometimes it is better, but not necessarily. It all depends on the circumstances. But if the pain is meant to arrive, just accept it. If it's something that you can easily fix, you can go get if you need to get an operation, obviously sometimes an operation may take care of it, but not necessarily. Many, many times we've heard stories of people who needed an operation, and at the end they didn't need it. It was a miracle. And the story today, you hear the big news this morning, most of you didn't see it probably. They're still talking too much about bin Laden and about other things, but all of a sudden, sometimes a piece of news, if you see it at the bottom, a lady who was in a coma, the doctors wanted to remove the machines because they only gave the husband 48 hours that she will live. She was doing very bad. It was some sort of tumor in the brain, and things got complicated. And the husband begged the doctors to at least put in her at least a breathing tube. As soon as they put in the breathing tube, within a couple hours, she woke up from the coma. She's in a wheelchair now, but she's fine. She's completely healthy. The doctor said this is a miracle. He had no other explanation. A miracle! All miracles occur, right? He had emunah. He's a religious person, not Jewish, and he said, we don't give up so quickly, He didn't want his wife to suffer, he said, but he didn't want to just give up either, lose her. So you try everything. But some doctors don't care. Look at the difference. This is the man's wife, a good wife. Yeah, so miracles occur in Hashemayim, especially when you believe, especially when you sometimes take upon yourself to do a good deed, and that can tip the balance of the weight. What should a person do, before we go on to the next pasuk, what should a person do if he is going through a hard time? The best thing to do if a person is struggling through a hard time is to have the right attitude. With the right attitude, we will be able to deal with the pain very, very differently than without the right attitude. And let me give you an example. 2 examples. Some stories. There's a story in the Gemara of about right after the Churban Bet HaMikdash, after the destruction of the Second Temple. Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues were walking by the Temple Mount. It must be about 100 years after. It was still fresh. You saw rocks. You saw the fire marks on the rocks. They saw foxes running around. The place was desolate and empty. It was a terrible sight to behold. And the colleagues, the friends of Rabbi Akiva, began to cry. They said, what a terrible sight. This is where the Bet HaMikdash stood. Rabbi Akiva was smiling. Rabbi Akiva, why are you smiling? So he says, well, why are you crying? Well, why we're crying? Look at the place. This is where the Bet HaMikdash stood. Foxes are running around this place. So he says, that's exactly why I'm happy. If all the bad prophecies came true that this place will be destroyed, now I'm also convinced that all the good prophecies will come true as well. The good prophecies that eventually the Bet HaMikdash will be restored, the Jewish people will come back. If the bad ones came true, the good ones will come too. Right? So now that I see how this one is real, exactly the way the prophets predicted, I know the good ones. So he's in a difficult situation, but he's looking at positively. You see, the only difference between the 2 rabbis was in the attitude, in the outlook. Of course the rabbis understood this, but they weren't looking in that direction. They were looking at just the bad, the negative, which of course we understand how bad it is. It's terrible, it's depressing, but you don't want to continue living like this a whole life. You cry for a moment, for 7 days you mourn, not more, even though for a father and mother it's for a whole year, but it's gradually less and less. Then you go on with your life. And Hashem does us a big favor when people die. He makes our memory forget little by little the pain. Otherwise we'd have this pain, carry this pain for the rest of our life. So Tova asa itanu Hashem, a tremendous favor that the pain is diminished over time. The memory fades. So yeah, same thing over here. Rabbi Akiva says you can't go on thinking like this. You have to look at the good. If this came true, the good will also come true. So in any kind of situation where a person is going through a hard time, always look at the good side. What could be the good side? This is Meshamayim. It could be a kapara. Right now it's bad. It could be that something good will happen next. That's why when something breaks in the house, what do we say? Mazal tov. Something breaks a glass. It could be a sign for something good. So first something bad happens. What appears to be bad is not really bad. Many times, however, people do not understand that their mazal is a lot better than what they think it is. They go searching all over the world, they try all kinds of things, and they don't realize that what they have right now is so much better. There's an English saying that says the grass is greener on the other side, right? There's a beautiful true story that tells us how sometimes the mazal can be so good where we are and very close to us that we don't even realize how close it is. There was a Jew by the name of Rabbi Eliyahu. He lived in Krakow in Poland. One night I should say, he has a dream that there is a big treasure underneath the bridge in Prague, the capital city of Czechoslovakia. Wow, what a dream. I think he may have had the dream twice, so he knew this must be a real dream. And he traveled. He decided he's going to go and dig under the bridge of Czechoslovakia in Prague. And of course there's a distance, not too much. There was a couple of 100 miles. So he traveled all the way from Krakow to Prague and brought his tools. He has a problem. There's a guard next to the bridge. So he has to wait for a good time until the guard goes away. Finally, he thought it was clear, and he went to the bridge and starts digging. The guard saw him and ran over to him. "What are you doing?" So he had to admit. He was a little embarrassed, but he had to admit, listen, I had from Krakow. My name is Yekel, and I had a dream that there is a treasure underneath this bridge, and I want to try my luck. Maybe my mazal is here. Says, "You foolish Jew." He says, "I had a dream last night too, that in the backyard of this Jew by the name of Yekel in Krakow, there is a treasure in the ground. You think I'm going to go to Krakow and dig in that backyard of this Jew, Yekel?" "Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You have a good point." He went back to his home and dug in his house, and he found the treasure. And I saw the shul that he built from all that money. There's a big shul there in Krakow, right across from the shul of the Ramah, and it says his name, donated and built by Rav Yekel. And it doesn't say the story on the plaque, but whoever knows the story, the background of where he got his money, he had to go there to find out that the treasure is in his own backyard. Many Israelis go to the Himalayas, they go meditate all over the place. They go to see a guru, they want to know the emet, the truth. And the guru tells them, "You're coming from me to the truth? The truth is in your own backyard in Israel. What are you coming so far to me to find out the truth? You want to learn? You have it in your backyard." So sometimes the mazal, the treasure, is so close to us that we don't even realize. We try everything in the world. What you have is what is intended for you. What you have and what's close to you may be what's best for you. Don't go searching for who knows what in great distances. Let's go on a little bit. Next pasuk. Even though there's a reason for everything and everything has its right time, people make extraordinary efforts. They build high-risers. They build a palace for themselves. The latest house that I saw that's for sale, anybody interested, $65 million. It has 27 bathrooms. Yeah. tennis courts, bowling alley, and even a salon. All kinds of things you can't imagine. 57,600 square feet, something like that. If you're interested, let me know. Maybe I can get a commission. Anyway, people, that's what he says. People who know that life doesn't last forever, people that know that things are only temporary, nevertheless, they go to extraordinary efforts to build all these crazy things. Why? He says, I'll tell you why. He continues on, even though people know their limitations, at least their life limitations, the number of years, they're not going to live here forever. What did they need this for? So he says like this, I see what's going on. Hashem intentionally allows people to inflict on themselves pain. La'anot means to inflict upon themselves pain. In other words, to work so hard for no good reason. Hashem allows people to go crazy, to do crazy things. Why? What's the reason for it? The reason is, the answer for this is in the next pasuk. In other words, right now Shlomo Melech is telling us, even though I just told you everything is so clear and so evident that our limitations, people's lives are only short, why are they going through extraordinary efforts? Hashem intentionally allows them to think that this is a good thing to do. All the efforts that people do is important for one reason: to build the world, to develop the world. Even though people are going to leave it, they're going to leave it to somebody else. Hashem makes them forget that they're going to ever die. Nobody is going around on the street working, thinking, oh, he's dying in a number of years. It would be very depressing if they knew that, if they thought about that. So everybody thinks he's going to be around for who knows how many years. Nobody is focused on what's coming next, on how life is short and how we are limited. So people go and do crazy things, and Hashem allows them because Hashem wants His world to be built up. Contractors who build incredible things, they may lose money on it. Hashem allows them to do it. He doesn't reveal to them that this is a mistake, this is a bad investment. Let the world be built up. See? So part of it is Omen HaShamayim, to let people do crazy things. And he continues on to explain as follows. Everything that Hashem made, everything is in the right amount, the right measure, in its time, including the season of the fruits. For some reason, we have all the citrus fruit, the peaches and the apricots in the spring and summer. Why don't we have them in the winter? Why should we have it in the summer? There's a reason for that too. As the Rambam, who's a big doctor, points out, there are certain fruits and vegetables that are better to consume when it's cold weather, and some that are better to consume when it's warmer weather. There are some fruits that are better to eat as an appetizer before you begin to eat because it gives you appetite. And there's some at the end to help the digestion of the system. So everything that Hashem made was yafeh be'ito. The problem is that people don't eat right. People don't eat at the right time. People mess up things. So people are to blame. But Hashem did everything the right time. גם את העולם נתן בליבם, מבלי שלא ימצא האדם את המעשה שעשה אלוהים מראש ועד סוף. And he has also given them an understanding, a certain limited understanding about this world, but he has not given them a complete understanding of figuring everything out mirosh ve'ad sof, from the beginning to the end. And what he's saying is two things here. Hashem has given people, human beings, the ability to comprehend a little bit of his workings, but not everything. That's why Rashi says the word olam here is missing a vav. Olam is usually ayin vav lamed mem. Here it's without a vav. Hashem ma'alim. Hashem conceals a lot of things from people. Lo rotzeh sheyedu. He does not want them to know. What does not Hashem want people to know? One example, their day of death. That's one of the things people don't know. Most people do not know when they're dying. It would be depressing if they knew. And if they knew, not only would it be depressing, they wouldn't do anything. Why should I do it? I'm leaving anyway. See, so Hashem intentionally conceals certain things. He doesn't want people to know everything. And he let certain people know certain things, other people to know other things. Not everybody knows everything there is to know. Hashem does not want a person to know mimawi kasher, what will be something that will ruin him, that will not be a good thing. He doesn't want people to know every little thing, right? First of all, it would be a very stressful life for if a person were to know exactly everything. This I can't do, this I will do. Sometimes it's just better not to know. Because if you know, it could be very difficult. Not everybody is able to carry the knowledge about future things with them very well. So Hashem just sometimes conceals it from people. Now, the other idea that he says here is a very important idea, and this is the last idea that perhaps we'll cover tonight, and that is that despite all the limitations in the world, Gam et ha'olam natan belibam, the meaning of these words means not only that Hashem has given people the ability to know certain things about His world, He has given them certain abilities or certain freedoms that they don't have because of the mazal. So this is a remez, an insinuation to free will. We do have some free will. Remember we said that everything is predestined except for one small area where we do have free will. And that area usually pertains to Yirat Shamayim, whether a person will be good or bad, whether he will be God-fearing or not, and to catch colds and flus. Depending on what you eat, depending on how you dress, you don't take care of yourself, you can catch a cold or a flu. So the area of free will is a very important area because that is how we're judged. We're not robots. We don't just have instincts. There was once a professor who asked his students, what's the difference between a man and an animal? So they said, a man has the ability to speak. So he says, so do parrots. He says, well, animals are smart. He says, so dolphins are smart. Whatever the students answered, he was able to show an animal that has the same ability. So the professor said at the end, you know what the difference between an animal and a human being is? It's not in quantity, it's in quality. A man has better brains, better ability of speech. Animals don't have it that developed. But of course, that's not a Jewish answer. The Jewish answer is clear in the Torah. Adam nivra b'tzelem Elokim. He was created in the image of Hashem. Hashem does not have an image. So what that means is that he resembles God in a very important way. Hashem gave him a part of him. Our soul is a part of him. It's divine. And that soul enables us to exercise free will. So that Tzelem Elokim, the image of Hashem, means a certain resemblance, a divine resemblance, something that's divine and spiritual in our physical bodies, that allows us to have free will and to determine whether we do right or wrong, good or bad. And that good or bad, by the way, is embedded in our subconscious mind through the neshama. You don't have to go to school for that. There's a good amount of good and bad that man on his own, without schooling, can figure out if this is right or wrong. It's not right to steal. It's not right to kill. It's common sense, right? Our conscience does not allow us to do certain things. What's conscience? Conscience comes from the neshama, from the soul. So that soul gives us the ability to exercise free will in a very limited area, but a very important area, called Yirat Shamayim, whether a Jew will be God-fearing or not. That is why the Pasuk says in Necha mipi elyon lo tetzeh haraot. From above, nothing bad or good comes down. It's man who determines the good or bad that he brings upon himself. They leave that to us. Are you going to do good or are you going to do bad? So, even though a person has a difficult life or difficult mazal, if he has the right attitude and the right hashkafa, the right perspective, the right outlook, he will be happy. He will be able to contend with the situation. He won't suffer so much. Just maybe one or two more examples of how important it is to completely trust in Hashem. Chizkiyahu HaMelech, the king, was a righteous king. He took the Nachash HaNechoshet, the copper serpent, remember from the time of Moshe, that they looked up to it and they were healed from any poison. People used to pray and worship it when they were sick. He destroyed it. He grounded it. You have to turn to Hashem, not to this thing. He also ganaz sefer refuot Shlomo Melech. He hid away the book of Shlomo Melech had written about all the cures to all the sicknesses. There's such a book. See, people would look at the book if they had a problem. Turn to Hashem. So there's always this problem that people tend to go to all kinds of recourses except to Hashem. Pray to Hashem. That's your first address when you're having a problem. And if things don't work, at least have a good attitude. Last pasuk here. את הכל יפה עשה בעיתו גם את העולם תמיד במליאה שלו. So with that one we saw. ידעתי כי אין טוב בם כי משמוח ולעשות טוב בחייו. I know that the only thing that is left for man to decide is to be happy and only to do good. That's what's left for him. That's where the free will is. Even if things are tough, be happy, do good. That's all there is. I realize that that's basically the bottom line, all that there is to do. וגם כל האדם שיאכל ושתה וראה טוב וכל עמלו מתת אלוהים היא. Those individuals who have an easy life and are able to enjoy life and have it all good, that's also a gift from heaven. And here he tells us something very interesting, that most people do not have what the rabbis call shnei shulchanot, 2 tables. 2 tables is a description of good family, good children, and wealth. In other words, have it all. Either people have one or the other or none. To have both is a blessing m'shamayim. It's rare to have everything right. Another explanation for this pasuk is that if a person does have a good attitude by nature, he's born with a good attitude, a good disposition, that's also a gift from Shamayim. Some people have ulcers, they anxious, nervous, temperamental. They have to really work hard on having a good attitude. So if a person is born with a good disposition, that's a very, very good mazal. So he says, I know this. I know this, that sometimes people have received a gift from Shamayim, but nevertheless, one should know that the ikar, the most important thing in life, is to be good to others. Because in the end, when people will judge you and give you a grade for your life, an A minus, a B or B plus, it's not going to be about how much money you made. It's going to be on how nice and how kind and how good you were to your wife, to your children, to your neighbors, to your friends, and so forth. It all has to do about goodness, and goodness has to do with free will. If that's the case, how do we develop a good attitude? One way to do it is to remember that everything is mishamayim, to remember to be happy with the little bit that we have. That's called listapik. Be content with what you have, not to want more, not to desire more, not to be overly materialistic. These are just some ideas. If a person is not too materialistic, does not go out of his way to get everything that his eyes sees and craves, he's happy with what he has, and he makes others happy, and focuses his lifetime mostly on helping others and being good to others, and remembers that everything is b'hashgachat Hashem, this person has it made. Right? So part of this has to do with attitude, and part of it has to do with the right hashkafa outlook. And that is why it's so important to remember at all times, everything is b'hashgachat Hashem. Hashem sees. Hashem sees everything, knows everything, manages the world just right, and He has given us what we need. The wife we need, the children we need, the job we need, the profession we need. So why be jealous? Why desire more? Why be stressful? Why be anxious? All of these things just give you unnecessary pain, not even pain that was meant for you to receive. You're causing it to yourself. So therefore, it's an important way, a quick fix. It's just a quick. It's a helper. It's definitely a good piece of advice to look positively at life and not at the negative things. To look at everything as being mishamayim, preordained anyway, and that together with not being very materialistic, not wanting more, being content and happy, and focusing our time and our energy on making others happy, this hopefully will assure us that our life will come out a lot better than it could have been otherwise. All depends on attitude and outlook. And that's why this Sefer is so important. I believe Kohelet and Mishlei help us form the right outlook and help us build a more positive attitude. Thank you.